Right now, it's my great pleasure to introduce one of our strongest champions in the state of California, in the state legislature, who has been pushing for climate resilience, climate action, and that's Senator Ben Allen. Senator Ben Allen, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for championing these issues in the state legislature, and truly thank you for your tremendous leadership this year, where California made historic investments into wildfires, drought, extreme heat, and protecting communities from these threats of climate change. So thank you for your leadership and welcome. And we'd love to be able to give you some minutes for you to talk to all the people that join us here today.
Well, thank you, Cindy. Buenos dias as well. Buenas tardes for all the folks on the East Coast. It's so great to be at this conference again. I've done it several years now, and I love as I see the numbers tick up on the Zoom. It's just so wonderful that there's so many people who care about healthy soils, which is not something that's pretty sexy. It's not something you see a lot on national news, cable TV, whatever else. But it is an enormously important piece of our broader push for environmental protection and environmental stewardship. Such an important piece of our broader ecosystem. I know we've got folks from all over the country and indeed the world on the call, but as a California state senator, I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about what's been happening at the state level in California. Obviously, big shout out to Paul, my colleague and friend who's on the city council in Los Angeles, and then Andy. So good to see you too, and thank you once again for all of your visionary leadership in making TreePeople what it is today, and now Cindy's leadership. I mean, it's just really fantastic to see how far that vision that you had as a young man has carried on to become such an important and influential voice in our regional and, in fact, our global environmental conversation. So it's been an extraordinary year, obviously, all over the world, certainly in the state of California. What a crazy situation that first, our budget, right? I mean, we originally thought that our budget was going to have a massive shortfall, which was not an unreasonable expectation when you shut down the economy. But of course, who would have thought that and this goes to show in some respects how weird our economy is and how problematic our economy is in some respects. You shut down so much of the economy and then the stock market hits record highs. As a result, of course, our state budget was able to reach record surplus, which has provided for a generational opportunity for our state government to invest in priorities to lift up all Californians, while also socking away significant chunks of money to make sure that we're saving for a proverbial rainy day. And by the way, thanks also to the gods for all the rain yesterday. It caused some damage in various parts of the state, but man, we needed that rain. And so for those of you who engaged in rain dances beforehand, please continue your important work. Now, the budget, of course, also gave us an opportunity, and Cindy alluded to this. We put a lot of money into environmental efforts, conservation efforts, drought. There's a big piece about it, and George Skelton had a big piece about it in yesterday's LA Times, our water projects. So a wildfire, I was on the wildfire task force that is putting a lot of money toward a more sustainable approach to fighting fires and reducing our fire risk. So let me just talk a little bit about some of the things that happened. So we passed SB 170 and SB 155. They combined the budget actions from earlier this year, which now is going to dedicate more than $10 billion over the next 3 years to address the impacts that we're seeing as a result of rising temperatures. So this is a historic package of investments that it's going to both mitigate against the worst impacts of climate change while also ensuring that we're better prepared for the challenges to come. Just to give some background, for years, several colleagues and I had sounded the alarm on the need for more serious investment in climate resiliency. There were those of us who'd been fighting really hard to try to do whatever we could to reduce California's contribution to climate change. And that, of course, has to continue to be a top priority, especially as we go into the COP conference this week and next in Glasgow. But in addition, we have to recognize that for better or for worse, climate change is happening. It's our job, of course, to make the impacts less than they would have been. But at the same time, we have to recognize that it's happening. And we have to do things now to invest upfront to improve our resiliency. So I had SB 45. It was our bond that would have asked voters to approve bond funding to reduce climate risk from climate impacts such as fire, drought, and sea level rise. Of course, the budget surplus gave us the opportunity to shift focus And so instead of having to bond for these natural resources investments that we would have traditionally done, we were actually able to use unanticipated general fund revenues directly to invest in the critical programs. So then we wouldn't have to even borrow to pay for these programs. So what's this going to do? It's going to, these programs are going to help reduce fire and flood risk. It's going to use natural infrastructure to guard communities against rising sea levels. We're going to fund innovative new approaches to water conservation to better prepare us for drought. From my perspective, making these investments only gets these monies on the ground faster, but it also saves money in future budget years, since we're not going to be borrowing to accomplish those goals. I do want to highlight a piece that's particularly relevant here. As you may recall, in 2019, Senator Bill Dodd from up north introduced SB 253 to update the environmentally friendly framing program to encourage habitat and conservation practices on agricultural lands, which of course very much impacts the healthy soils issues we're going to be talking about. So that measure stalled for lack of funding, but we know the important role that healthy soils can play in protecting habitat and helping us to address climate change. We also, of course, need to do more to inform our fellow citizens and policymakers about that issue. But working really closely with Senator Dodd, who then joined us as a co-author on the bond, we were able to add language to SB 45 to fund projects that will help farms improve habitat and conservation with a focus on, at least a partial focus on healthy soils. Now, to be transparent, this particular piece didn't end up in the final budget, but I do think we were able to really educate members on the potential that these types of investments can play in helping California continue to be a global agricultural leader. We're going to continue advocating for more state funding as it relates to natural working and agricultural lands, and it's my strong hope that we're going to be able to get some more substantial money beyond what got into the budget in the next coming budget years, especially if our economy stays strong. We know we need longer term investments in this space to adequately address the worsening climate crisis. CARB is starting to look at this as well. That, of course, speaks to the importance of symposia like the one we're engaged in today, programs like the Healthy Soils program as well. So we're going to need every single tool at our disposal to tackle climate change and make our soils healthier. So I just want to thank you for having me. I want to look forward to working closely with so many of you. I recognize so many of you on the Zoom folks that have been leaders in this fight. Let's work together. Let's continue to educate my fellow policymakers, some of whom have no idea about this issue, to be honest, many of whom, but maybe even most. We need to educate them. We need to advocate. We need to push so that we get these issues higher up on the radar screen. And in the end of the day, help to put in place policies and budgetary items that will help to support more environmentally friendly farming practices. So thank you so much. And so good to see you, Cindy.
Likewise. Thank you, Senator Allen, for championing truly historic investments in trees, in water, in climate resilience. And as I said, especially in those vulnerable communities, and we got your back. We're going to keep doing more on healthy soils, and go have a wonderful conference at COP26. I know California is going to have a very strong delegation there, and we will continue to lead the world in climate resilience, climate change, and climate justice. So thank you for joining us. And I do invite everybody that's participating today to follow Senator Allen on through either his website to get updates, or Instagram, Facebook, all of his social media, and stay in contact. So thank you, Senator Ben Allen.
Thank you.